Good Saturday morning to you, everybody. Glad to have you here. If you will, like, share, comment on the post. And then I guess you don't really need to join me today. I'm going to be introducing our next letter, our next book. And that is, we're just going to continue on with Paul's words to the Thessalonians as he writes now the second epistle to the Thessalonians. Second Thessalonians. Again, no real disagreement or argument over the author. I'm sure there's someone out there that thinks Fred or somebody who knows who wrote it, but generally any respected scholar is going to agree that Paul is the author. The letter was written probably around 50 AD to about 52, somewhere in that range, very closely behind First Thessalonians. It would the two are very close together in their timing. Several reasons that Paul wrote this letter. Two main reasons that Paul wrote this letter is to comfort the people and to assure them that even in their persecution, even though they were being tested mightily for their faith, persecuted severely for their faith, that God was still in control, that God was aware of their circumstance, and that as uncomfortable and as unpleasant as it may be, God would use that persecution to make them better believers, to teach them courage, to teach them to stand for the faith in such a situation. And so it's an encouraging letter and a teaching letter all at the same time. He's encouraging them to continue to stand up in the face of adversity and teaching them, anytime still today that we have adversity as believers, it usually leads us to question what God is doing. Is God really paying attention? Does God really care? Does God really love me? Those kinds of things. And Paul is assuring the Thessalonians that yes, God does care. Yes, God is aware, and God will make you. You will be a better believer, a stronger follower of Christ because of this, and that's what's going on. And as He teaches you, the helps you to grow in your faith. Just to remind you, again, Thessalonica was a great city. I've shared a number of times. I struggle sometimes with that. When I think of biblical cities, I think of a couple of tents and a campfire, but this was a big city. It was the capital city. It was the largest city in Macedonia. It was founded by a man named Cassander, who was the chief military officer of Alexander the Great. And so this city had been, after Alexander died, the Romans freed the city because they had been faithful and loyal to Rome, which meant they could have their own government and their own laws, those kinds of things. The city was a city of about 200,000, had a large natural harbor. But what really made the city great was its location. It was right on what was known as the Egyptian Way, or the Roman road. And again, the road just really ran right through the very heart of the city, and it went If you look at a map, it goes all the way from the Adriatic Sea to the Middle East. And so it was a major place of commerce. And so a lot of people coming and going. Now, the church in Thessalonica was unique, again, because of that position. People would come through the town, come through the city, hear the gospel, and then they would go out from there. People in Thessalonica would travel, and so it was a key piece of the spread of the gospel. It was the second city. It followed Philippi in being evangelized, and Paul had preached there. He didn't get to preach there alone. He preached on three Sabbaths, and then ran out of town. But he ran out of the synagogue actually, and so he evidently began to have some home churches, and then they continued to pursue him. But the gospel was planted there in Thessalonica, and most of the converts there were Gentiles. And so a lot of Greeks, a lot of women in the church, and it was a very immoral city, and so Christianity was just really, there was an almost instant butting of heads as the gospel was being proclaimed, and the immorality of the city. They came against everyone. Again, there was just the friction there between the gospel and the immorality. And so again, Paul is one of the main things that Paul's going to address in this letter is the good folks of Thessalonica thought they had already been left behind. They thought they had already missed the return of the Lord, and they were upset. And so Paul's going to address again persecution and this idea that they had been left behind. So that's what we'll dig into. That's where we'll start on Monday. Hope to see you here. If you want to go ahead and jump ahead, start reading 2 Thessalonians chapter number 1, and we'll jump into verse number 1 on Monday morning. All right. You have a good weekend. We will see you here again Monday morning.